whatever you just did, do not do it again. I'm like, why? What happened? Like the car had a flame pretty much the size of another car behind it. Like, you're gonna set this car on fire. I work full-time at a Ford dealership, which might sound a little bit boring, but the owner of the dealership actually has a pretty serious car collection, and I actually became friends with him doing my car photography stuff. I remember one day I was at his house shooting his Aventador SV Roadster and his Veyron, and he randomly just said, hey, do you want to come work at the dealership? And honestly, I kind of didn't want to do it at first. I'm like, let me think about it. Then I called him, like, give me 3 months and I'll start. In those 3 months, I was still hanging out with him, shooting his cars a lot. Then he only had a 48 Spider Veyron, which is Floyd Mayweather's old Veyron, and an Aventador SV Roadster. Eventually, I think I was a bit of a bad influence that I got him to buy a bunch more cars. But the other cars he always had that we never really touched were an XJ220 and a 959, because that was owned by one of his leasing companies. They have just, for 10, 15 years, have been sitting in a showroom in the middle of absolutely nowhere, just collecting dust, never driven, I think maintained once in a while. But there were super low mileage examples of both of these cars, and I never even pictured, even while I was hanging out with him, I would get to drive the Veyron, drive the SV. I just thought those cars, out of boundary, like, I will never be able to drive those. COVID time came, and people started breaking into places, and it started getting a little iffy, and those cars were not in the best area in Toronto. And they're right in front of glass, so you can see them if you walk by that dealership. I've never even sat in an XJ220. One day he calls me, he's like, hey Roy, I want you to go pick up the XJ220. And I had about a 50-mile drive from there to his house. Never even driven an XJ220. Now, if you know anything about XJ220s, these cars are the furthest thing from reliable. If you go on a 100-mile drive, I'd say there's probably about a 30% chance you'll actually make it to the end. So I call my friend Zach Brell, pretty well-known photographer, and I tell him, hey, meet me here. I am going to show up in an XJ220. So I told him to meet me down the street from that dealership. He didn't believe me, obviously, because I was 20 or 21 at the time. So I'm going to show up in an XJ220. But he pulled up there, and I go to the dealership, and I've never even sat in an XJ220. So the weird thing about those cars is, most cars, if you got to get into reverse, you got to either push the shifter down, or you got to raise something up, and then you just move it to the left and up, or right and down, or whatever it is. This car, if you move it to the left and up, you're in first. You have to do a very slight motion of left, slightly up, and then over to the left to get into reverse. So it took me about 10 minutes to do that, because nobody that was there even ever knew how to drive the car. So I kept on trying, going forward. Eventually I got the car out. Now, I don't know what the condition of this is. I was told it's safe to drive. We get on the highway. I have Zach following me, and within about 2 minutes, I get a call from him. He's like, what did you just do? What do you mean, what did you just do? You had about a 3-foot long flame shooting out of the back. Like, it looked like a Toyota Supra just two-stepping. I said, I just downshifted. Well, okay, you probably shouldn't do that again. So we keep driving, and it was really weird because that car obviously is turbocharged, and anytime I'll get near the turbos, you'd feel them spooling up, and then instead of getting any power, you just hear a bunch of cracking noises, and you just ease off because you're like, man, this car might explode. But the turbos were definitely not working. Driving that car through the streets of Toronto, nobody's ever seen anything like it. Nobody knows what it is. People are breaking their necks. I remember before I got to my boss's house, I had a guy in a Ferrari 48 just completely break his neck and almost hit the car in front of him because I don't think he even knew what it was. And I think he actually ended up posting the XJ220 in a car spotting group, if I'm not mistaken. Then we get to my boss's house, and I park the car, and I see smoke coming from underneath. And okay, it's a little hot, it'll cool down. 30 minutes later, still smoking. Okay, that's weird, but we'll just leave it outside. Probably not best to not bring it inside the house. Eventually it stopped, we get the car detailed, everything is fine, and actually around that time my friend Jason got a Jag Project 8. Perfect opportunity for photos. I called Jason, hey, you gotta come. Put the cars together, get some photos, awesome day. But then a few days later, we go to take the car out for a drive again. We wanted to try out the XJ220. Now, the thing is, the gauges have never worked on that car. When I drove it, RPM gauge doesn't work, speed gauge doesn't work, nothing works. I go to pull the car out of the driveway, suddenly it shuts off, car ran out of gas. Gas gauge doesn't work, how would I know? We do the only logical thing we can do. We pull out my boss's Bugatti Veyron 16.4 with a jerry can, and we go to the gas station to fill up gas. We go back, put gas in the car, and now I'm driving the car. It feels a little better, but still turbos are not working. And I'm like, let me just try to push past this cracking noise that happens. And suddenly the whole car had a seizure. The gauge was just up, down, up, down, up, down. And suddenly they correct themselves, and now everything's working. So, okay, now I start pushing it. Whoa, the car's driving completely fine. I mean, turbos work. I mean, this is a powerful car. Everything's working properly. You push the car and it starts going sideways on you. I was probably on pretty old tires, but it is what it is. So we start driving and following the Veyron. Amazing time. And then my boss is behind me and we get on the highway. And I'm just playing around with the car and I downshift. And immediately I get a phone call. Whatever you just did, do not do it again. I'm like, why? What happened? Like, like the car had a flame pretty much the size of another car behind it. Like, you're gonna set this car on fire. Okay, you know what? I am not playing around with this. I'm gonna put this car away. But the one thing with that XJ220, I don't think I've ever felt a car so bad and so good at the same time. I mean, that car is absolutely terrible, but you'll never have an experience that feels more special than that. I mean, I was driving it with Jordans on, and you clutch in and your foot just gets stuck. It's like nothing on that car works. The door's barely open, but it's just knowing what you're in is the craziest experience I've ever felt in my life. Now, 2 weeks later, okay, the 959 now. You got to go get that. Logical thing to do. I call my friend Jason, came in his GT2 RS. We got to do a little Porsche cruise. Picks me up, takes me there. We pick up the car, and we have again that like 50-mile drive back to my boss's house. I'm in what is now probably $1.5 million 959, and nobody's even looking at me on the roads. The GT2 RS is the star of the show. I just look like someone in an old $80,000 Porsche that a dentist drives, and just nobody has any idea what's going on. Now, for me, I'm like, damn, I'm driving pretty long distance in a pretty expensive car. This is probably gonna be pretty cool. You would think that with a Porsche hypercar, they competed with a Ferrari F40, but unfortunately, I gotta tell you, that car drives exactly like a 993 turbo. If I was buying a car to drive, 993 turbo, save yourself $1 million. It is the better thing to do. I mean, I've never felt less excitement for the money than a Porsche 959. The car, I think you got to buy it for the significance of it. I mean, started the show on display law, the crazy technology behind the car with the suspension, can raise and lower, but I got to tell you that suspension on most cars is broken, which is why I know most people do the Canepa conversions. They put it on coils because I feel like technology like that from the 80s just does not work in 2020, 2025. That car, I think you pay the money for the significance. You're better off parking it, buying a 993 turbo, driving that. You will get pretty much the exact same experience. Because of those experiences, I mean, my boss had a ton of fun with these cars as well. And I mean, who wouldn't? There's nothing else to do in 2020. I mean, you just kind of drive all day. So we started looking at more cars. We bought a G-Wagon 4x4 squared and we drove it into a river at a golf course. And I was the one driving. I didn't realize there was a dip in the actual river and I was probably about an inch away from drowning that car. There was a day where I got a call in the morning. Hey, Roy, I found the best 599 GTO. You got to go buy it. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, I'm going to give you a check. If it's nice, buy it. Okay, so get in the car, drive 5 hours, look at the car. I had a $900,000 check. At the time, they were pretty cheap. And yeah, it was a beautiful white with a red roof, red interior, blue line across the hood. I mean, one of the most custom specs 599 GTOs I've ever seen. We were on the hunt for a LaFerrari for about a year or two. Till eventually we get a call, hey, we found a matte white LaFerrari, Bianco Fuji Opaco. We just said, we'll take it. No question about what color the interior is, whatever, just doesn't matter, done deal. Car came during that time, also got a 918. I think that was a little bit later, 2022. And now that collection, I mean, the collection he has a gated manual first gen Murcielago in silver, Versace edition Murcielago, 997 GT3 RS, SF90 Spider, A12 GTS, Rolls-Royce Cullinan and Rolls-Royce Ghostman, Surrey, G65 now, which is really cool. Two NSXs, a 91 and a 92. Just, I don't even remember off the top of my head all the cars, but it was just like starting COVID with 3 cars in the garage, finishing with about 20. I think I'd like to say I was a pretty bad influence, but I think he's pretty happy with it.
This month of VINwiki content is brought to you by Premier Financial Services, and they are the perfect partner in your journey to own your dream car because their Simple Lease is the most powerful tool in the world of exotic car financing. You'll get all the benefits of a leasing structure like lower payments and better tax treatment, along with everything we love about a normal exotic car loan where you can trade in and out at any time, always know where you stand thanks to their amortization table, and accumulate equity for whenever you're finished and ready for the next car. And Premier is great because they're wholly owned and backed by First Financial Bank, which means they have more buying power than any other exotic car bank or collector car bank in the United States, and their customer service is unmatched. Also, rates are lower than they have been in a very, very long time, so it's never been a better time to reach out to Premier, talk to their representatives, learn what you can pre-qualify for, and let them help you own the car of your dreams with Premier Financial Services.